So welcome everybody. My name is Mary. I'm a volunteer with the Minnesota Music Coalition. And I would like to welcome our panelists. Our conversation, our workshop today is on radio and streaming. And it's not live streaming from home, it's streaming platforms, how to get your music out into the world on different platforms. We have Andrea Swensson from The Current, and she'll be talking about radio and how to get on the radio and the do's and don'ts, etc. And we have Mae Simpson, local music powerhouse, who will be addressing the streaming. Her band's 2 years old and they're all over the place, so that will be awesome. Andrea is an author, radio host at The Current, and music journalist, and she hosts the local show on The Current. And she has written, what is the book? Where is it? Oh, first book, Got to Be Something Here, The Rise of the Minneapolis Sound, and it was released in October of 17. And I think we had a couple of them donated to our gala last October and fundraised with those. So, and they were a super hot item. So yay about your book. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have Mae Simpson, frontwoman for local Minneapolis band Mae Simpson Music. Just released their second EP, Did You Make It Back? And the band won City's Page's Reader's Choice Award for Best New Band in 18 and was one of First Avenue's Best New Bands in 19. So 2 big fat awards in 2 years of existing is pretty sweet. So thank you so much and she blew the roof off the MMC gala last October with Purple Rain. It was chilling and awesome. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's jump in with radio. If you wouldn't mind kicking it off, Andrea. Just what are the first steps a band would take if they want to get some radio play and some do's and don'ts?
Absolutely. So I was thinking about this getting ready for today, and I think something that I learned over the last 4 years of doing the local show, because I've been at The Current for over 8 years now, but I've only been actually hosting and programming the show for 4. And something that was immediately clear to me is how many submissions The Current gets every year, every day, really. We have a form on our website where you can submit music, and then I ask a lot of people to just email me directly. And we do still get physical CD submissions as well. So the first year that I did it, I started kind of tracking it just out of curiosity. How many submissions are we even getting? And we got over 1,500 submissions in the year. And we were able to play over 600 songs throughout the year by rotating through a lot of different artists each week on the show, which is a lot. So I feel like the first thing that people need to understand, whether you're approaching a radio station or a media outlet like a newspaper or a blog, is that you are going to need to have some way to form a connection with this place that goes beyond just here's my music. And in the local scene, I think we're just so lucky here in Minnesota that we have so many different radio stations that have local programs. And I think that's a really, really great place to start for a local artist, is to find out who hosts those programs, what kind of music do they play? Is it a really wide-ranging eclectic show, or is it more of a specialty show? And how do I get in touch with them? I think similar to whether you're pitching, yourself to a media outlet to be written about, I think really doing that research up front to figure out who's going to be the best fit for you can save you a lot of time in the long run, because then you're not just blasting dozens and dozens of people that may or may not have interest in the kind of music that you make, but you're seeking out people that you feel like your music will be a good fit in what they're already doing. And even adding just that teensy little bit of personal touch to your submission can go so far in helping the person that's receiving those submissions to understand that this person put a little bit of effort into, figuring out whether or not this is going to be a good fit. So that's kind of my first big piece of advice, is just do that little bit of research, connect with other artists, because honestly, a lot of other artists have probably already done this research and probably have a spreadsheet that they would share with you. If I could say one thing about the artists in Minnesota, everyone is so supportive of each other, and there are those resources that people have already made. So I'm sure people would be willing to share that work too. But do that little bit of research, figure out where you want to approach, and then go in with a couple of really personalized submissions. So for me, because I'm going through so many different submissions, what really stands out to me is, well, first of all, just realizing that, okay, this is a local artist. They're contacting the host of the local show. You would be surprised how many submissions I get from, I'm a hip hop artist in Nigeria. Can you play me on local current? I'm like, how did you even get my email?
Right.
So making sure that it's a good fit. They're clearly approaching me for a reason, and then it's really just the basic information that I need. It's who are you? Even just a sentence bio. We are. If it's Mae Simpson, we're a band that's been active in the Twin Cities for 2 years. We've won an award, or we haven't, or we haven't put out any music, but we're learning how. Anything to kind of set the stage of who you are, what you are releasing, whether it's a song or a video or a full album or whatever it is, and then any other information that will help to create a timely hook to what you're doing. Again, my background is also in print media, so I can speak to that as well. Anytime you're submitting anything to media, they're going to be looking for some kind of hook, whether it's you're releasing it in this time frame, you've got a release coming up in a couple of weeks, you're going to be doing an event, you're going to be doing a live stream, which is a lot of what we're receiving right now, and this is the date that it's happening, and here's the details. Then it gives you a little bit, as the person going through these submissions, it's a little bit of context, and it helps so much when you're sorting through all of this information to say, oh, here's a local band, they're doing something cool, they've got a release coming out, they made a video, or they're going to be doing this live streaming concert. It's timely, it's fresh, it's new. That's something that I definitely want to listen to and check out. So that's kind of how things rise to the top of my radar, I guess. But I will say, and I know a lot of other hosts across other different radio stations do as well. I do a lot of just kind of scanning to see what's going on out in the world too. So often for me, just because I've been covering local music for so long, a lot of times when I get a submission, I already recognize the person or have heard a little bit about them, have a little bit of context to work off of. So that's not the only way to success, is to have this perfectly crafted email to introduce yourself to a radio station. But I think it just having all those tools in place really, really helps people.
As far as perfectly crafted email, I have heard from a veteran musician in this town that he has been told many times that his intro letters are way too long, but he needs to get all the information out. So it's almost like he gets that feedback and chooses to ignore it. So what would you say is too much to read? Or, if you get a whole page, are you going to read the whole page? You're going to go, good Lord, I don't have time to read this whole page.
If it's a letter that someone obviously wrote to me, I read the whole thing. Okay. If it's a one-sheet bio that goes on and on and on about the band's whole story, I probably am scanning it at that point. I would say a perfect email is 2 short paragraphs. Just get the basic information, just get it out there.
Good. Yeah, good to know. Because it's one thing to send an email with your intro, but what intro is going to make people glaze over?
Right.
And what intro has enough information to be interesting?
Right.
So a couple paragraphs about who you are and what you're doing right this second.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and something really timely.
Okay. Cool. So when you're putting together the local show, how are you deciding who's going on there, or what is the criteria? What would get someone booted from being selected?
Ooh, well, I don't have a blacklist. I have just a personal philosophy about programming the local show, because it's called the local show, which is such a general term. I try to make the show as eclectic as possible. So I really look at the playlist each week and make sure that it's diverse in every way that it could possibly be diverse, genre, age, people that are established versus people that aren't, backgrounds, ethnicities, genders. And I really want it to feel like this is a space where everyone is welcome and that anyone could be played on this program. The only real like metric that I use for whether or not I play a track is honestly recording quality plays a big role. I can tell this is like where my ignorance comes in. I'm not a professional musician. I don't know what mastering is. And I don't really know what happens in the mixing process, but I can tell when a song hasn't gone through those two steps, when it's lo-fi, when the sound quality is poor, and I can tell that it would not sound good on the radio. And ultimately, at the end of the day, my job is to put together a show that sounds really great and keeps people listening so that they can be introduced to all of these incredible artists in our community. So that's kind of the big turnoff for me, is if I can just tell, like, the song, maybe it's a great song and maybe it's, you know, something that has so much potential, but they just didn't go through those steps to really polish it and have it professionally prepared to be broadcast. And that's just kind of the one thing that would really make me say, I'm sorry, I can't play this. But I will say I try to personally get back to people if I really think that they do have potential, and let them know that that's the reason that they're not being played at this moment.
Good. I think the feedback is super important, because then they'll know what they need to do to work on it and tweak it and fix it going forward. What advice would you have for musicians statewide, besides just sound quality? What else would be a way to approach radio? What's a way to not approach radio? What kind of submissions have you gotten that you're like, I don't even want to talk to this person?
I will say there's a big difference between being persistent and then just spamming somebody. I really appreciate when someone follows up and says, hey, did you get this email, or did you have a chance to listen to it? That doesn't bother me at all, because I get so many emails and so much mail. I need those reminders to say, you know, to help it kind of rise back to the top. But if you're just sending me like a new song every week with no context, some people, for some reason, that's their strategy, with no information or no like really like this is coming out on this date, they just keep sending stuff. It's really hard to know what to do with that information. So yeah, I appreciate like a really just a little bit of thought behind the contact. That's all I'm asking.
I guess that applies statewide to every person putting together a radio show in the whole world. So
yes,
that's good information to have. You know, as far as outstate radio, do you know much about outstate radio? Or, I mean, I'm assuming college radio is a whole different thing. How do you go about things, or do you know much about that?
I do, just in that I've traveled around the state and met a lot of people that work at different college radio stations. And I think in that medium, when you're dealing with a smaller community, it is a little easier to have, like, the hosts have personal relationships oftentimes with a lot of the artists that they're playing. When you're at a small college radio station, you might only be dealing with a handful of active local bands that live in your city. I think it's a little easier to have that like truly local feel, where it feels like they're just like walking into the studio and hopping on air with the host and things like that. But I would say I'm sure that they would want the same kind of contact, that, you know, a thoughtful note or a submission that says, I know what your radio station is and I feel like I'm going to be a good fit on your airwaves. And I've done that like little bit of research to know that.
Cool. Thank you. So Mae Simpson, can you talk to us a little bit about, outside of radio, how to get your music in other platforms?
Sure.
What have you done, or what's worked for you?
Well, you know, if we're talking about platforms, you know, you have to go with, I personally use DistroKid. You can do TuneCore, you can do CD Baby, you can do all of that stuff. It gives you kind of different options as far as getting your music streamed. So basically, once you sign up, it will get you to your iTunes, your Spotify's, Deezer, all other. There's so many. There's like 250 of them. I use all of them because you never know who's going to hear your music or what that's going to gain to you. So, you know, just constantly pushing your product. So really, it's just about making sure your music is on those platforms, because if music is just sitting, that's exactly what it's going to do.
Right. So on the platforms too, like Andrea was saying about sound quality, do you have to pass any sort of level, or can people just put whatever they want out there?
You can put whatever you want out there, but I do not recommend that, especially if you're going on Spotify's and iTunes. You know, you're not going to get picked up if your quality is not great. So that's why it's important, before you're doing a DistroKid or CD Baby or anything like that, you need to make sure your artwork is complete. You need to make sure that your songs are completely mastered, and then upload it.
What is the investment to be in DistroKid or some other
Sure.
sort of distributor?
Well, it's the ability to get your music out there, to all those. So you're paying, my fee for DistroKid was $29.99 for the year. That's for unlimited songs and unlimited albums. So, and then it's $19.99 per year. So relatively cheap, you know, for having unlimited. I mean, if I make a song tomorrow and I have Dave mix it and, you know, his friend Bob master it, I could put it on, you know. So it's really limited, but you know, the return on that too, it can be limited because it's over such a period of time that you're seeing money come in. So as an artist, that can be frustrating, but you're not really doing it for the money just yet. You're doing it to get your art out.
So when you get your stuff out, is there a way to monetize it that way? But I mean, how do you promote your merch? What do you do to monetize?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things you can do. First of all, promote. You can never stop promoting. You know, of course, you're going to make a little bit of money off of Spotify or iTunes. Also, you can monetize on Facebook. You can monetize on SoundCloud. You can monetize on YouTube by putting ads in front of your music. Now, there's also the ability to schedule that. So basically, your true listeners, they're not really going to want to watch an ad before they hear your song. That's just annoying. But you can make it available to them for like 7 days, right? And then you've gotten the steam off of it because people are already sharing it. Monetize it then. You have to enable that on YouTube. So enable that first on YouTube. Once you got some steam rolling, it's automatically kind of in share mode. So at that point, that's when you start making revenue off of something like YouTube.
It is, I mean, I don't know if YouTube does it, but did the online distribution company, do they do all the work, or do you have to still like choose where your stuff goes or promote it yourself?
Well, they get the music out there for you. Again, you can choose where they're sending it to. You don't have to choose all of them. I do, but no. I mean, they're going to put your music out there on iTunes and Spotify. They're not going to get you any editorial playlists. You know, that's work that you're doing. So, I mean, you always have to grind as an artist. Even the biggest artists are constantly grinding. So, you know, just make sure you're always promoting your music.
How does the money make its way back to the artist?
So that can come in a lot of ways. It can come in streaming. Now, like I said, with the streaming, that on DistroKid, it takes like 3 months, and really you don't see a whole lot of money coming in off that. Of course, you need to be with Sound Exchange and BMI to get your royalty. You can also make money off of that. I think I just got a payment not too long ago. It's like quarterly, but it's something, right? And again, merch. If you have merch, sell your merch. A lot of people use Bandcamp, which is great. A lot of people go directly from their website. You know, it's just about how can you keep the momentum, especially in a time like right now. How are you keeping the momentum? Are you releasing new things? Are you promoting that correctly? And are you constantly on streams? You know, with Spotify, it's huge. And there's certain websites that you can go to, which are kind of like all the same, but you can try to find your way on a playlist that's going to get you that many more streams, which turns into revenue.
So how do you get yourself on a playlist?
Well, there's lots of different ways. I'm no expert by any means. So basically you get in with the curator. So they are the ones that are making playlists that are going on iTunes and Spotify and all that good stuff. So you can use something like what is called Submit Hub. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that, but it's great for indie artists. Now, it's not always what you want to hear. They're pretty honest about your song's not going to fit, or I'm not really hot on that vocal melody. They're going to be very honest, and the payoff, it's not crazy good, but we have personally had some luck with getting some of our songs off of our new EP. Did You Make It Back on Submit Hub onto playlists. Actually, today I was just on a women's podcast. So it's an ability to get on podcast. Bloggers will write about you. Editorial playlists on Spotify and iTunes. Radio stations, all of that. So again, that turns into revenue, based off those streaming. So I didn't even know much about how to get on those, because I was like, how do we do that? And then Dave was like, hey, I heard about this thing called Submit Hub. So he kind of really guided that. But probably 1 out of 10 will say yes, or 0 out of 10. But it's 1. And I've gotten probably 500 streams in the last week based on getting on one. So
there you go. So when you're on the playlist, do you get the data? Do you get to, so that you've had 500 streams,
Yep.
So you can track all that and see what's working for your band. And
yeah, and that's the cool thing about like a TuneCore or a DistroKid, is that everything is right there for you. The data is right there. It's easy to read. You see how many streams you're getting, how many total you have, how much money's in your bank per song, what the age groups are. So where are you hitting? What's your market?
That's great feedback.
And you could also download that, by the way. It's an app for Spotify and iTunes. That's an app as well.
I had another question. It left my head. Oh, dang. Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think if the curators of the playlists are actually giving you feedback and critique, I think that would be priceless. I think anyone would want that. That kind of feedback.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, for me, it's like, I know not everybody's going to like what I'm doing. That's fine. I'm not doing it for them. But if somebody says, well, I'm not really into the vocal melody here. Well, that's okay. Or I'm not really into the mix on this song. That is good feedback. Any feedback is good feedback. So, I mean, it's just, it's not necessarily for the lighthearted. If you're thinking that you're going to get on every playlist in the world, it's just not going to happen. Right. But it is a great opportunity to put yourself out there.
Good. Are there any platforms you don't like that you avoid?
I wouldn't know, because I just use DistroKid though. Okay. As far as my platform, because once you go changing it just gets all murky. So, find one that you like. I use DistroKid because it is simple to use, and it does everything I need it to do. Find one you like and then just kind of roll with it.
Awesome. Thank you. And please pipe in if you think of something else. So I was going to ask Andrea, as far as critique goes, or do you follow those playlists? Is that what you use as research to see what's going on with local music?
I haven't as much on streaming services, unless it's something that's curated by like a local person that's putting together a Minnesota specific playlist. I would say the biggest tools that I use online to find new music are YouTube, Bandcamp. I love that Bandcamp lets you search by geography. So I'm commonly just typing in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota into Bandcamp and seeing what new releases are coming out. That's just been an incredible tool. I also love that Bandcamp lets you give people download codes, and it's just such an easy way for artists to send their actual like WAV files of their songs to radio stations. So I've become a huge Bandcamp fan through this job. And then I'm using social media a lot to just keep up with I try to follow as many artists as possible and as many local outlets as possible. And I'm just constantly seeing who's being interviewed and who's putting out new music. And I've got all of these Google Docs that I keep for my team that we can look at that has just like kind of a master list of all the albums coming out in a year and events that are coming up that we want to spotlight.
Awesome. I love that our local music, maybe every city is doing it, I don't know, but at least here there's so much online now that if we can't get out, which we can't, we can at least go see our people online and still have a show on Friday night and still be able to pay them, because everyone seems to be monetizing their streams with, PayPal or Venmo, so you can still pay the band.
Yeah, and that's hard as an artist, is like, even though this is the outlet, right? The live stream is an outlet. It's not like a live show. You might run into some technical difficulties. The sound is not going to be the same. Especially for a band like mine or anybody that's really rocking the stage. I mean, that's what you're known for, is your stage presence. You can't do that really behind a small room in a video. I can't really get in somebody's face. So that's hard to do, to really get into that moment. So, you got to kind of take yourself out of it and just realize that you're not only doing this for you, but you are doing this for your community, because music is needed, and especially right now, for people to keep their, heart up, all their emotions, keeping them honestly kind of stable. I mean, I've been going stir crazy. So, I can imagine, somebody that just went out to live music every week and now not having that. So the live streams are incredibly important.
They are. And then you can have viewing parties with your friends. I watched a concert with my friends, so at least we could all like talk to each other while watching the show. So you still kind of have your sense of community, and you can still support your band and get your music. But gosh, when everything opens up, it's going to be so great, because we're so desperate for it. It's going to be so good. So anything else you guys would like to share with musicians that are stuck home right now? A lot of times they've lost their paying gigs, they've lost their restaurant job or whatever their day job was as well. Any other advice or suggestions for how to get their music out there, or what you guys
Andrea, you want to go first?
One thing I've been thinking about with the live streaming is, I think you mentioned at the beginning, it's a challenge now. So many people are doing Friday, Saturday night live streams that you are suddenly choosing between a ton of different things that are happening at once. And it's so new that I think everyone's learning together, the audience and the artist. But I think it's going to have to turn into a similar promotional cycle as you do with a normal show. You plan it a couple weeks ahead of time. That gives you enough time to create a press release if you want, or create a big event and start posting about it and start teasing it. Because I think unfortunately, people are just getting lost in the shuffle a little bit. And I really hate to see that. I hate to see really talented people, putting their heart and soul out there and not finding that audience that I know would love to experience that. So that's something I've been thinking about a lot. And I've also been thinking about, I just personally had an experience a couple weeks ago doing my first real Zoom, I guess, public facing thing. I did a Q&A with someone, and there was a big audience, and I realized I still had the same physical human reaction that I would have if I had just stepped on a stage. I was full of adrenaline afterwards. I felt very self-critical, and I'm curious, Mae, for you, if you've noticed that too, you still have to kind of go through the same cycle that you would if you were performing, but you're just at home. And I wonder how, if there's a different self-care needed to just have that support as you get off stage and go back to your normal life, which is still in the same room, what that process is like for artists. I just can't even imagine.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting, because it's when we did that show with Nerdy, that was actually at a brewery. Okay. So, you know, in that kind of setting, that's really easy to get into because you're at a brewery, you know, throw back a couple brews and you're kind of already in that momentum setting. Now, you know, we have Blake's house party Saturday, and that is going to be us in a room. So that's a whole different kind of hype you got to get, because, you know, you want to give your fans what your fans want to hear. They want to hear good music. Of course, I'm not going to be jumping around anywhere, but you kind of have to get in that same mindset. This is a show, regardless of how you're doing it. So you need to be hyped up, and, you know, you just get yourself hyped up. And then when you're off and you're done and it's over, you all just kind of take this really big breath and you're like, we did it. Hopefully the Zoom didn't cut out. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the same process. Are we as excited when we're done? No, but, you know, nothing's going to replace a live show. But what we can offer is keeping us sane because we're still doing music, and helping other people because they're still hearing live music.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, the hearing live music. I know it's hard for the musicians because you can't play, but we're so thankful. Even if it's a big departure from your regular gig, it's such a relief to have it and have the access to it. But there's still music going on, and that's the whole thing with the MMC. Our goal is to, like, how can we make musicians still make music? What can we do to help that along? I don't want anyone to lose their love of it, because for us, those of us that aren't musicians, we need you guys so bad.
You know, it's funny. We just recently got our CDs for the new EP, and we have some people that have really been huge supporters in, you know, our come up, I should say. But, you know, so we did this thing where we took some CDs and we went to their house. Of course, social distancing, we're all 6 feet apart, but we did, you know, one of the songs out for the EP in their front yard. You know, they're safe from us, we're safe from them, but it was like a give back moment. We've got a couple more of those to do, but, you know, in times like these, you really need that, and just know somebody's thinking about you, you know, like that's huge. And so if you can think of anything out there that you can do for somebody else, just please do it.
Cool. Andrea, we have a question for you. Can artists monetize radio airplay, and what does it look like relative to streaming revenue?
So this is an area I don't know a lot about. There are, as far as I understand it, there are some royalties that come out of radio airplay, but I would be speaking way out of turn and not giving you an informed answer.
That's a business office question.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So whoever asked that, you're going to have to find that answer elsewhere.
No, do you mean like, as far as royalties, like how that turns into revenue?
Yeah. If you get your song on the radio, can you monetize that? Is there a way to get paid for that? And
yeah, I mean, you need a sound exchange. You know, that's how you get paid for your royalties. I mean, I'm no expert or anything, but I know you need a sound exchange. So, and BMI as well, like I said earlier, or ASCAP, anything that you're using for your copyrights, that's how you get a lot of your royalties. So you need to make sure that you're having a sound exchange and BMI account or ASCAP, something that's going to be tracking your royalties and getting paid from streams, AKA radio. Not expert, but yeah. How do you sign up? What was that, Tim? How do you sign up for that?
BMI and ASCAP.
Yep, you go online to BMI or ASCAP. I personally use BMI. And you just sign in your information. They're going to give you a BMI code. Then at that point, you can put in your lyrics in your songs and upload your songs. Also, make sure you're copywriting your music with the Copyright Association. And then there's this really cool feature that I use as well, which is called BMI Live. BMI Live is an app that every single show you do, after you have your songs written down in your playlist or whatever, you can actually plug in every single show that you do and the set list that you used, and you can make money off of that as well. So it's not much, you know, maybe $30, but it's something that's coming to you. Does that make sense?
I hope so. Is there a thumbs up?
There was.
We are doing our 3-day music conference, Minnesota Music Summit, was supposed to happen this weekend. So of course it's not. But we are taking it online in June. And our focus was going to be music, a voice for climate change. We're saving that for next spring. And this year we're focusing on the business of music and what musicians can be doing to work on their business right now. So we will be digging into copyright, licensing. We'll have legal workshops with entertainment attorneys. So we'll be digging into all of that. It will be open to all. We're not charging a fee this year because we want everybody to have all the information. So, but through these workshops every week too, we'll be offering different, whatever musicians need right now. But the summit in June will dig in deeper to.
Yeah, good. Because I'm not an expert. I'm just telling you what I'm doing.
No, well, that is what we wanted today was like, what are the musicians that are doing it right now? What are you doing? And what do you like? What do you not like? And we'll get expert stuff in June or in following workshops. So.
Yeah, I might not look back at this video if we listen to the experts and then it's like, whoa, I'll be tuning in for sure.
No, this is good. I think the interchange between musicians is important. So, and we have our member Facebook page too. If anybody has questions on there, you can kind of bounce ideas off each other there.
I just want to do one thing here and give a lot of love to Andrea. Because when we first started trying to get on the radio, that's who we went through. And she gave us such good advice and just really helped us as Mae Simpson Music kind of grow into that current scene and has kept us there and has been such a supporting person and just doing a lot for the community. So seriously, I appreciate everything that you're doing, Andrea.
Oh, thanks.
Yay, Andrea. I think too, we keep hearing over and over about how this music community is so supportive of one another. And it really is because of people like Andrea who are nurturing musicians and encouraging them to hone their craft and supporting them. And I think you encourage other musicians to support each other quite a bit. And that is really important. And I've heard from musicians that are like, that's unique to this town. They haven't had that experience in other places. So
totally.
So yay us, Minnesota.
Well, I think that we're just so lucky to live in a place that values local. I say that word so much it's like lost all meaning, but the true community that we live in, that that we value the arts and that we have programs like this. And I just feel so honored to be in a role. I mean, my whole job is funded by the Legacy Amendment. Which means every time you buy something at a store, like the teensiest little fraction of your pennies go towards this fund that supports local art. And it's just really incredible that we live in a place that is like that.
Yeah, awesome. And we definitely appreciate you guys having us for sure. Like this is really cool to be a part of.
Well, thank you so much for coming. We have another question. Oh boy.
Annie had a great idea.
What's that?
I want to call out Annie's idea. She said, might there be a way to create a library of equipment that musicians could borrow so the sound for the live events is good? She wants to do a live stream, but doesn't want to use her phone, and she wants to elevate the sound quality. And that's something that we've already encountered. We've been doing a lot of virtual sessions, and some artists either maybe don't have a very strong internet connection or just don't have the sound equipment at their disposal. And it's really creating like tiers of musicians that are able to stream and those that aren't. It would be really amazing if we could figure out a way to get that flowing a little better.
We have been talking about that with the staff at MMC. It's like, is there a grant out there that will let us get some stuff? I was going to buy a cajon just for MMC to own. So when someone is playing a small show and can't bring a whole drum set, you can still have some percussion. But that was before we needed all the live streaming stuff. So I think the cajon's probably going on the back burner, and some actual mics and lights and things would help with. No, I love that idea.
How would we make that happen,
Yeah.
with everything? How would that lending library work, I think, is the biggest thing, especially with COVID-19 and keeping things clean and, you know, using it as a library. How do you get past that aspect? I really do think it's a really cool idea if there's a way that we can make sure it's safe. You know, I know a lot of musicians, you know, I think we all know a lot of musicians that would probably be willing to help in making that library. I mean, I know I would. My percussionist probably has like 3 cajones. I'll be like, hey, let me have one of those, will you?
Just borrow it for the weekend.
Yeah, you know, so that would be a cool idea.
I love that idea. And there's got to be some way to do that. I mean, now they make mic covers and all that are protective. It's going to take a little bit.
Bring your own mic cover right there.
Yeah. No, I love that idea. And I think it's important because I don't want anyone to be missing out on the opportunities just because they don't have the stuff. There's got to be a way to share the stuff. So, yeah, bring your own mic cover. Nice. Andy.
You got the wheels turning now. We'll have to figure something out
like
now.
a kit, like a band in a box kit you could just get like dropped off at your house. Like, here's everything you need.
Yes. Yes, that is perfect.
And be home so no one rips it off when I'm dropping it off for you.
You must sign for this, but it's 6 feet apart.
No, I love the idea. We talked about that too. It's like, and especially for our summit coming up, because we're, you know, members are going to be eligible to submit music to perform. And it's like, well, they're going to have to sound good. And how can we make sure they do? And what can we provide for that? But then we'll have that stuff going forward. So yeah, there's got to be a way to share it. I'll try to get someone smarter than me on that to work on that.
I'll try to get some contacts with this and
there we go.
You know, see if I can make some library happen. A small library, but a library.
Yeah. Yeah, David Ostrom, I think both he and Stephanie were talking about that on Tuesday about tech equipment that we could try to get our hands on to help out. So yeah, anything else, you guys? There was a question, gosh, it was about our venues going to open back up. We had a workshop a couple weeks ago with Jen from the Astor, and she is in it and can't predict. I don't think there's a way to predict who's going to last until we can open back up again.
It's really sad for small bars and restaurants. It's just going to be a really difficult climb. I don't know when I'm performing next live. No. And that's no fun. It's literally a big ball of unknown.
Yeah, it is. Our Caravan du Nord in October. It's an outstate music showcase, theaters across the state. We may be taking that online. We'll still try to make it a statewide thing, but there's really no way to know. And that's October. And up until a couple weeks ago, we're going to plan as if it's going forward as normal. And as we get closer to it, we're like, I don't think we can do that anymore. So we got plan
I think
plan
that
B.
With that, you know, I mean, we can get really deep into this about timing or whatnot, but I do kind of like that some people aren't canceling things that are in October or in September. Not because, you know, they're being careless, but because they're giving it time, because it is important to try and be able to be out. And I don't feel personally that we need to look at October and November's and be like, no, we can't do it. Let's chill. Let's see if the earth is getting a little bit better here. You know, maybe that's just me being a performer. But
you know, I think it's just being hopeful, because I mean, that's why I was like, we're going to plan for this as if it's normal. And it's going to be the same thing we've always done, because you want to be hopeful. You want to be able to go back out. I think plan B is online, and we're all getting much better at it. So it won't be such a stressful stretch come October. But yeah, there's no way to predict what's going to open and what isn't. And the venues will bounce back. Yeah, I really think they will.
I do think once everything has cleared up and things are good, that it is going to be a big scene. It is going to be just, people are going to be out when the time is right. I think they'll be scared at first, and that's okay. But once it starts rolling again, I mean, everybody's just going to be going and eating live music for dinner, breakfast, lunch. It's going to be great.
It'll be great. Not like even in December or January, it's like on a Friday night, maybe you're going out, but maybe you're tired and you'll just catch it next week. That will be gone. If you have a chance to go out, you're going to go, and it'll be,
yeah.
I know. I keep thinking about all those nights where I was like, I think I'll just stay home. I'm kind of tired. Like, what was I thinking?
I know.
Just go out.
No more. So next Friday, we're doing a live streaming workshop, and we tried doing an intro to live streaming workshop, and it turned into an in-depth live streaming workshop. So this time it really is going to be live streaming the ABCs. So if you are home, if you don't have experience with it, if you have a cell phone and a table lamp, how to set up a live stream so that it sounds good and looks good with what you've got from home. And we will field some more in-depth questions, but we're not going to just launch into in-depth stuff. We're going to try to stick to basic. So that's next Friday at 11, and then we'll put that one on YouTube as well. But yeah, and the summit will be coming up in June. We'll talk about that later. But for today, for you guys, for radio and the different streaming platforms and how to approach that and what musicians can be doing right now about those things, thank you so much for your participation and for doing this with us today. Andrea, lovely and wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Mae
for having me.
Gosh, if this is all you've done in 2 years, I can't imagine what your whole band is going to look like 2 years from now. I hope you're still in the Metro. You're going to leave.
Probably be a 20 piece, thinking about some more horns. Well, I definitely appreciate you having us.
Yeah.
It's really hard work, being an artist. It's really hard work. And you just have to remember that you have to grind. I remember when I took shows just to play shows as a full band, and my guys were on board, at small little clubs, but we didn't stop. We were literally always performing, and don't stop, just keep going.
Good advice. All right. Thank you so much. Guests that joined us today, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
You.